My psychopath sister told me to calm myself, and my mom encouraged her, so I tried to silently escape the house. My mom caught me and did everything she could to stop me, plus 3 updates. When I told my abusive mom I wanted to move out of her house for college, she started literally bawling her eyes out and screaming that I don't love her. My sister walked in and asked what happened. My mom screamed that I don't love her and want to move away. My sister took out her phone and, completely unprovoked, sent me the following DM. "You dumb bitch. I hate you. You're trash, and I'm glad you were robbed. No one loves you and no one ever will. And how dare you make my mom upset? She was kind to you all her life, and all she wanted was for you to stay. You're never going to be anything, and I know you've been feeling like unaliving yourself, so why don't you actually go and do it? No one will care. Your boyfriend broke up with you last year, and I think that goes to show no one cares about you. I hope you get raped again, but I should stop talking before you call the cops on me like you used to do to mom when we were kids. There's so much I'd love to say to you, but I don't want to be a bully." When I read that, I started crying, and when my mom saw me crying, she started laughing uncontrollably and calling my sister hilarious. "You're going nowhere," my mom said to me before walking away. I wanted to leave immediately, but I didn't even know where to go. I tried to calm down, tried to think, but then my sister walked back into the room. She had this smug look on her face. She stopped in front of me and just stared, like she was daring me to say something. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Did I hurt your feelings?" She didn't wait for me to answer. "Oh wait, I forgot. You don't have any. You're just this empty shell who thinks everyone owes her something." I didn't say anything. I didn't trust myself to speak. I knew if I opened my mouth, I'd either scream or start crying again, and I didn't want to give her the satisfaction. She leaned in closer, lowering her voice. "You're such a pathetic little crybaby. No wonder no one wants you around." Then she moved behind me, and before I could react, she flicked the back of my head. I stumbled forward a bit, and she laughed. "Oops," she said mockingly. "Sorry, didn't see you standing there." It stung, but I didn't turn around. I just stood there, my fists clenched, trying to hold it together. I felt trapped, like I couldn't even move. She leaned in again, her breath against my ear. You really should do everyone a favor and just disappear. You'd be doing us all a huge favor." I closed my eyes, wishing I could just disappear into the floor, wishing I was anywhere but here. She pulled back and laughed again, a harsh, mean sound. "Yeah, that's what I thought. Go ahead. Keep pretending you're all brave and tough, but we all know you're just a coward." She turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, still shaking. My head was throbbing where she'd flicked it, but it was nothing compared to the heaviness in my chest. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I knew I had to get out of here, but I didn't know how. My mom was right. I was going nowhere. That night, I went back to my room and locked the door. I knew I had to get out of there. I couldn't stay in this house anymore. It was like being trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the blank wall in front of me, trying to figure out what to do next. I knew I couldn't just walk out the front door. My mom and sister would stop me. I needed a plan, something solid. First, I grabbed my phone and opened the messages from my sister. I took screenshots of everything. I didn't know if I'd need them, but I wanted proof, just in case. It felt weird, like I was building a case against my own family, but they'd left me no choice. I saved the screenshots in a hidden folder, then backed them up to my email. After that, I started going through the other messages. My sister had sent me a lot of awful stuff over the years, and I saved those too. Every insult, every threat. It was a lot. I tried not to read them too closely because I knew it would just make me cry again, and I needed to stay focused. Next, I made a list of things I needed to take with me. Clothes, my laptop, a few books, some cash I'd been saving up from my part-time job. I had about $300 stashed away. Not much, but hopefully enough to get me started somewhere else. I started packing a small bag, keeping it quiet so no one would hear. I rolled up some clothes and stuffed them in, along with my laptop and charger. I shoved the cash deep in my backpack, under everything else. My heart was pounding the whole time like I was doing something wrong, but I kept telling myself I had to do this. I couldn't stay here and keep pretending everything was okay. As I was zipping up the bag, I heard footsteps coming down the hallway. I froze, my heart in my throat. The doorknob rattled and I realized I'd forgotten to unlock it. "Open the door," my mom's voice came through, sharp and annoyed. I hesitated for a second, then forced myself to get up and unlock the door. She pushed it open and stood there, arms crossed, glaring at me. Her eyes flicked to the bag on my bed, and I could see the realization dawning on her face. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she demanded. I tried to stay calm, tried to think of something to say, but I could feel the panic rising in my chest. "I'm just packing some stuff," I said, my voice shaking a little. "For college. I just wanted to be ready." "Don't lie to me," she snapped, stepping into the room. "You think you're leaving? After everything I've done for you, you're just going to walk out?" I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. "I'm not trying to leave right now," I said, forcing a smile. "I was just getting things together. I'm not going anywhere." She didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes. She took a step closer, her face inches from mine. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Think you're going to run off and have this perfect perfect little life? Well, you're not. You're not going anywhere. I know, Mom, I said, keeping my voice soft. I know. I'm staying here. I'm sorry. I hated saying it, hated pretending, but I knew if I didn't, she'd make everything worse. She looked at me for a long time, her eyes boring into mine like she was trying to see if I was lying. I forced myself to keep looking back, to keep my expression calm. Finally, she stepped back, her lips curling into a sneer. That's right, she said. You're not going anywhere. You belong here, with your family. Don't you forget that. I nodded, trying to look as defeated as I felt. I won't forget, I said quietly. She gave me one last glare before turning and leaving the room, slamming the door behind her. I let out a shaky breath, feeling like I'd just run a marathon. My hands were trembling as I finished packing, stuffing a few more things into the bag. I wasn't going to let her win. I wasn't going to stay here and let them destroy me. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I was going to get out of this house. I had to. Even if it meant sneaking out in the middle of the night, I was going to leave. I wasn't going to let them break me anymore. I'm escaping this house, and I don't care what I have to do in order to do it. Something I should also mention is that I have been able to secretly contact an acquaintance of mine. I told her about my family situation, and she and her family kind of know my mom, and they told me they would be willing to take me in if I made my way down to them, and didn't tell anyone where I was staying. That's where I'm going. Update 1. My hands are shaking, but I am on the way to a domestic violence shelter. I am very afraid. The family who was going to take me in said that my mom is way too scary when she's mad, and in case she finds out where I am, they are afraid she is going to do something crazy to them, and they don't want to take that risk. I'm very upset with them about this. She didn't even have to know I was there. How could she have found out? They live miles and miles away. Right now, I look like a mess, and it's because it all happened fast. The night I left, my mom saw me walking out the door. A vase was thrown at me by her, and nasty things were said. My life was threatened by her. I didn't even have time to shower or anything. I look and smell awful. Update 2. I am at the ER getting my medicine. The domestic violence shelter is paying for it. I'm afraid of getting judged because I actually rolled out of bed and look awful. But I had to escape. The shelter itself is pretty nice. It's so nice not being yelled at or literally fearing for your life when you go to sleep. The only downside of it is that it gives me 30 days before I have to leave it. Luckily, I have a job interview lined up. I don't know the best way to go about it, but I think I'll be honest and tell them I really need the job because I'm in a shelter. It's at a cinema, so that would be so nice. My friend and her parents changed their mind too and said I could stay there if I don't have anywhere else to go after the 30 days. I just have to buy my ticket. Update 3. Wow, so it's been nearly 3 years since I posted. Desperate for help. For some reason, these posts just popped into my head after all this time, and rereading them, I just want to hug my former self because I had forgotten how bad things were. I also want to hug all of you for helping me. I wrote down the advice you gave me, and I used it. I really did. So here goes the last update to this saga, and it's a happy one. The shelter that I stayed in was very nice and brand new. The staff told me how cramped the other one was, so I'm very lucky that I arrived when I did. After the first day, my nerves relaxed, and I could just breathe. There were about 7 other women there, and we each had our room with a nice bathroom. I was the youngest there, and the other women gave me advice about life, and they even did my makeup for interviews. We each took turns cooking, per the rules, and we developed a nice rapport. The staff was so amazing, and they also talked to me about life. I felt so safe at this place because of the security. Oh, I almost forgot. A church group came to give quilts they had made for us, and I still have mine. Sometimes I snuggle with it and think of how far I've come. I love that quilt, and I wash it very carefully. We also had group and individual therapy, which really helped. I know every domestic violence shelter experience isn't like this, but please don't be afraid to just leave when things get bad. Family abuse counts as domestic violence. I was able to find a job that paid more than the movie theater offered, and I told them that I didn't plan on going back to school in the future. Yes, it was a lie, but there was no way I could afford rent by working at a movie theater. I decided to look for my own place instead of just staying with the friend that offered because I needed stability, and if things got bad, I didn't really have a support net and would have to start over. I had no reason to think things would go bad, but after leaving such a bad situation, I guess nothing felt secure for me. I rented a room and my roommate was never home because he was a truck driver. I didn't feel very comfortable staying with an older man I didn't know, but I had very few options. He was very nice, and because our schedules never aligned, we left each other goodbye notes since we couldn't do it in person. I still have his note. I did go back to school the next semester when my medical leave was over, but not at my original school. I felt like I needed a fresh start, and my family knew about the old school anyway, so I applied to different schools. I got into a great school. I told my story of everything I had survived in the essay. When my sister told me that I wasn't going to be anything, she was wrong, and I think she knew she was wrong in her assessment of me. I graduated this year, and I have stability that I've never known before. Although I'm a few years older than I wanted to be when I graduated, I realized that sort of thing doesn't even matter, and the medical leave was beneficial. I just got engaged to a lovely man with a lovely family. They always tell me they're my family, and I'm so close with my future mother-in-law. I had food poisoning for the first time a few days ago, and my fiancé left the house at 2 a.m. to get Pedialyte just to make sure I was hydrated. And when I felt like I was never leaving the bathroom, he told me he was going to make lentil soup for me. I didn't have to ask or even say anything. When I was kid and vomiting, my mom told me to go back to sleep. It feels nice to be treated this way, and sometimes I catch myself saying, "You don't have to," when he tries to do something nice to me. Anyway, he has 6 siblings, and they're like the siblings I never had. I learned to value myself and put myself first. I wasn't loved, and so I do things for myself that I didn't get. No one made me feel special, so I do it myself. I make it a point to buy flowers for myself weekly. A therapist recommended this to me, and it makes a difference. No one cared that I was sick, so I make sure that I rest and relax without disruptions when I'm sick. No one valued my personal time or space, so I have days where I don't even answer my phone and just spend time with myself. Things like that. When I made that last update, I was crying, and I really didn't think I was going to be okay. I was at a shelter with a 30-day stay, and I thought there was no way anything beneficial could happen in 30 days. I was very depressed and hopeless, and I had no idea things would have gone in such a positive direction.